Good morning, Scotland. Good morning, social media land. I hope you are well. It is Wednesday, the 12th of March, 2025. Scotland has been told for generations that the United Kingdom is a partnership of equals, that Westminster works in the best interests of everyone, that no matter how hard things get, the Union will always be Scotland's safest option. It's a lie so well crafted, so deeply ingrained, that even now, after decades of betrayal, so many Scots still believe it. They believe it even when Westminster-controlled governments strip Scotland of its wealth, break every promise ever made, and force Scots into economic hardship while hoarding the riches that Scotland produces. They believe it because they have been conditioned to. In 2014, Scots were promised that staying in the UK meant security. They were told their pensions would be safer under Westminster rule. They were warned that independence would bring uncertainty, instability. So they voted to stay, believing that the Union would protect them. And what happened? Within a decade, Westminster governments, both Tory and Labour, have maintained the lowest pension in the developed world, cut winter fuel payments, and forced pensioners into deeper poverty. Scotland voted to protect its elderly, but Westminster lets them freeze. Scots were told that remaining in the UK meant jobs. They were told that investment and economic growth depended on the strength of the Union. They were warned that an independent Scotland would be left struggling to survive. Yet since that vote, Scotland has watched as Westminster stood by and let industry after industry collapse. History shows us that it was Westminster that let Ravenscraig go. They let our shipbuilding decline. They let Scottish steel production die. And now they're letting Grangemouth close, destroying hundreds of skilled jobs, stripping Scotland of vital infrastructure again, and forcing the country to become dependent on England for refining its oil. A government that cared about Scotland would have stepped in. A government that saw Scotland as an equal partner would have fought to protect its industries. But Westminster never does. It allows collapse, forces reliance on English alternatives, and then turns to Scotland and asks why it cannot stand on its own. Scots were told that Westminster would ensure their security, that remaining in the UK meant stable prices and a reliable supply. But how can that be when Scotland is an energy-rich country, yet its people are paying the highest energy costs in the UK? How can this be true when Scotland generates more electricity than it consumes, yet bills are skyrocketing? How can this be true when England exports Scottish electricity to Europe and keeps the profits? What? We generate the energy and they send the excess to Europe and keep the money. Are we slaves? The UK government has spent decades ensuring that Scotland's energy wealth benefits Westminster, not the people of Scotland. It built pipelines that send oil and gas south, ensuring London reaps the rewards. It imposed transmission charges that punish Scotland for producing renewable energy while allowing the south of England to pay less. The only thing Westminster's ever done for Scotland's energy sector is to exploit it. Scots were told that voting Labour was the answer, that it would be different this time, that getting rid of the Tories would mean an end to austerity, an end to poverty, and an end to economic mismanagement. Labour promised to lift children out of hardship, but when given a chance, they voted to keep the two-child benefit cap. They claimed that they would tackle rising costs, but energy bills remain untouched. They said that they would rebuild the economy, yet refused to save Scotland's last refinery, while handing over billions to bail out a private company in England. They talked about fairness, about progress, about hope, but when they stepped into power, they did exactly what the Tories did before them. Every election, Westminster parties campaign in Scotland with one simple strategy: fear. They tell Scots that independence is too risky. that there is no economic case, that they are too small, too weak, too reliant on Westminster's generosity. Yet it's a manufactured dependency, manufactured by Westminster to keep us pressed down, reliant and in our place. They tell Scots that the UK is the only thing standing between them and ruin, and yet every time it is Westminster that delivers ruin. Scotland's industries, once thriving, have been dismantled under UK rule. Scotland's workers, once valued, are treated as expendable. Scotland's wealth, its energy, its oil, its resources have been drained for the benefit of Westminster, while Scots are told we should be grateful for the scraps we get in return. How many more times must this happen before Scots realise that this is not a partnership? How many times must Westminster prove that Scotland is an economic asset to be exploited, rather than a nation to be respected? How much longer will Scots allow themselves to be lied to and discarded? If the betrayal of past decades is not enough, what will it take for Scotland to wake up? If the loss of industry, the rise of poverty, the blatant theft of Scotland's resources is not enough, then what will it take for Scots to say enough is enough? Some will say that Scotland can't afford independence, that the numbers don't add up, that it's too reliant on UK spending. But who's responsible for that? Who controls the financial levers? Who dictates how much Scotland can and cannot do with its own money? Who withholds the wealth that Scotland generates and then tells Scots they're too poor? Westminster has created the very conditions it then uses as an argument against Scotland governing itself. It takes Scotland's revenue, redistributes it as it sees fit, and then tells Scots they would never survive alone. The lie is so obvious, so insulting, and yet it is still repeated. Every single argument against Westminster is based on the idea that Scotland is too weak, too incapable, too reliant on Westminster's goodwill. But history tells us a different story. The UK does not hold on to things that are a burden. It does not fight to keep what costs it money. Westminster holds on to Scotland because it knows the value of what it takes from us. If Scotland was truly a drain on the UK economy, Westminster would have let us go a long time ago. The fact that they fight to keep us proves just how much they gain from Scotland's continued subjugation. Subjugation. Scotland has tried voting Labour. It's tried voting Tory. Tories have never been in power in Scotland, but they still tried for Westminster. It's tried sending MPs to Westminster to make its voice heard. Time and time again, it has been ignored, dismissed and overruled. No matter how Scotland votes, it gets the government that England wants. No matter what Scotland wants, Westminster always gets the final say. Scots must ask themselves a simple question. How many more times are they going to fall for the same lie? How many more times will they believe the promise of change only to watch Westminster continue to exploit and betray us? How many more times will we be told that we are too small, too poor, too incapable, while our wealth is taken from us and used to fuel the economy in another country? Scotland has been given every reason to walk away from the Union. Every betrayal, every broken promise, every stolen opportunity should have been enough, but the Union continues because Scots allow it to. You allow it to. The power has always been in Scotland's hands. The choice has always been ours. Are Scots ready to see the truth for what it is? Are we going to wake up to this? Are we going to do something about it? I really hope so.
We walk through the echoes of battles long past, footsteps still ringing, the die has been cast. The voices of We don't